Twitter is following through on its 25 by 25 pledge. That's the Silicon Valley initiative dedicated to advancing diversity in the Bay Area. The company is aiming to make 1/4 of its executives be either women or unrepresented minorities by 2025. Here to discuss is Yahoo Finance's Reggie Wade and Candy Castleberry. She's the Twitter VP of Diversity Partnerships, Strategy, and Engagement. Candy, I want to throw this off to you first. Can you give me an overview of the 25 by 25 pledge and exactly what Twitter is doing to advance the representation of minorities and women?
Yeah, so first I would like to acknowledge that the head of diversity inclusion at Twitter is an amazing woman named Delana Brand. I am grateful to be here as one of the Elite 100. And I am primarily focused on the external work of diversity and inclusion and our partnership together. However, in specifically responding to your question, our 20 by 25 pledge is a shared commitment that we also have with a number of Silicon Valley companies. And that is well documented, as well as I think that when you think about this vision for 2025 and 25% of the leadership being women, you will not only find that we're committed to that, but our deeper commitment goes through our workforce being 50% women, 25% of our tweets, which we are called Twitter employees, being from underrepresented groups. That would include 10% Black, 10% Latinx, and other multiracial and indigenous groups.
Candy, Reggie Wade here. I remember your 2016 TED Talk, and you said differences are barriers only if we allow them to be. Do you think that people are allowing their differences to become barriers, especially on social media in this day and age?
I do believe that in 2016, when I said that, I wasn't working, obviously, at Twitter. However, what I can tell you is social media is a reflection of who the world is. And sometimes there appears to be an expectation that social media, and particularly social media companies, can solve for that, which are societal issues that are only expressed on social media. Differences are still only barriers because we allow them to be. And I know that I, along with a number of DEI leaders, both people who are working internally and externally, get up every day to try to ensure that those differences aren't barriers in workplaces. And for those of us who have a focus on community, to ensure that we are working together to create unity of our voices, as well as amplifying those who are doing amazing work to prevent differences from being barriers, both in workplaces and communities.
Candy, when you look at so many organizations that are trying to address the issue of diversity and inclusion, there always seems to be a real wall between the business side and then those in charge of diversity and inclusion. And I wonder how you think about the structure over at Twitter, especially given that some would argue when you talk about the discussion about diversity, race, social justice, things that have really dominated the headlines over the last year, a lot of that has been elevated by Twitter. What do you think about your ability to address those issues in your role, and how Twitter looks at that overall?
Well, I would say I've worked for a number of companies doing diversity and inclusion work. I've worked for companies where the CEO is committed or the HR leaders are committed. Well, you have a D&I infrastructure or team or councils who are committed. I would say Twitter is the first place that I've worked where I believe we have both a committed CEO, committed leadership, and the team that Delana Brand, who is, as I mentioned before, the head of people experience and I&D, are all committed to ensuring that it isn't just a set of words, that there are actions. Delana publishes a blog on a regular basis, quarterly and annually, that will provide any updates that people need about Twitter's progress. And the work that I'm doing specifically externally is bringing together both nonprofits, NGOs. We work closely with a number of Black, Latinx, Asian, LGBTQIA organizations to think about ways that we can strategically work together to not just think about how we make improvements in the industry, but specifically how we can work together to create sustainable change. It is not going to be sustainable if only Twitter gets it right. It is going to require all of us to work together. And sadly, I think that many people lean in on a single organization or a single industry. And many of the issues that for those of us who've been in this space for any period of time know that they are systemic. They have gone on for decades. And that the only way that these changes come about is through collaboration across industry, across disciplines, and more specifically, that they are integrated into systems change and not just words, that they are supported by actions.
Candy, you're a part of Diversity Women's first annual Elite 100 Black Women in Corporate America. What does that accolade mean to you and being part of such an illustrious group?
Well, I was raised by a Black woman. I stand, I work, I trust, and I work and win with Black women. I'm surrounded by powerful women who are humble, who are smart, who are loyal, who are resilient. And I count myself as one of the humble people to be named amongst this 2021 cohort. I aspire for us to not just be able to acknowledge 100 women for their contributions to corporate America, but someday that perhaps there will be 100 Black women on boards, 100 Black women who are CEOs, 100 Black women who are leading businesses and that are on lists that are not only inside of corporate America, but are doing things that the world can see and acknowledge the contributions that Black women can make to America if we work to eliminate the barriers that in many cases prevent that from happening today.
Candy Castleberry, Twitter Vice President of Diversity Partnership Strategy and Engagement. It's good to talk to you today. And our thanks to Yahoo Finance's Reggie Wade for joining in on the conversation.